Hello. All right, hi everyone, and welcome to our annual Bayview DECA Pre-Provincials Hangout. Here we're going to go over some important information about what these next few days are going to look like, as well as offer some final tips to keep in mind during your presentation tomorrow. I know a lot of you are probably anxious to get some extra studying in or some extra practicing in, so we'll try not to keep you for too long. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, first, with the some logistics about arrivals and departures. Please be at school today and tomorrow, both days, 6:35 a.m. Yes, so we know the buses are going to leave at around 6:45, but we need you there at 6:35 so we'll be able to have time to load the buses. Now, majority of Bayview students are going to be competing in the first or second flight because Bayview is alphabetically near the top of the list. So this means that people are going to be competing early. And if you're not on the bus, you're going to cause people to miss their cases or the exam and the rest of Bayview too. So don't be that person. As well, because we are in the first flight, do make sure to set the bar high and make a strong impression. As well, make sure you must arrive and leave with Bayview DECA. There are no exceptions. If you do need to leave, you should have already spoken with Mr. Valier already about any extenuating circumstances. And last thing, bus lists have already been posted on Facebook, so you should know exactly what bus you're on. And don't worry, you'll be seated with all your partners. So make sure you check out that.
Yep. So when we actually get to the venue on both days, just a few notes for how you should act during competition. Remember that the first and most important thing is to actually know where you're competing and be sure to head there ahead of time. So on your lanyard cards, you'll be able to see the time of your competition. Be sure to arrive at least 30 minutes before that time. They often run ahead of schedule, and if you're not there when they call your time and do attendance, you're out of the competition essentially. This essentially means that since we're in the first flight, as Alex said, it's even more necessary for you to be on time tomorrow at school so that we can leave as soon as possible. And then even outside of competition, remember not to change out of your business attire. Stay in it for the entire day. If anyone catches you outside of your business attire, you'll be docked major points. Even if you happen to add something like a hat or a beanie to your uniform, it'll still count as a dock. So just be sure to remain in professional garb for the entire day. And then for oral competitors, a side note, remember that at the end of your cases, to give your notes to the judges. Sometimes they'll ask for it, other times they won't, but just make sure at all times you can't walk out with any notes. So just be sure at the end of the case to leave your notes with them. If you don't, you'll get docked marks and it's going to be really major. So just make sure to keep that in mind.
All right, so that's what you should be doing during the competition. But outside of the competition, it's a pretty fun time. DECA Provs is pretty lit. But just a few things to keep in mind. Do not leave the Eden Center or the Sheraton Center. Doing so will get you, like, not only you disqualified, but potentially put the entire chapter at risk. So make sure you stay in the Eden Center and the Sheraton Center. Other than that, like Jeffrey mentioned, make sure you stay in business attire the entire time so that you don't get caught by, like, some people from DECA Ontario who will actually be looking out for people who aren't dressed in proper attire and will be docking points for that. So make sure you stay in business attire and the Eden Center. And so on top of that, moving on to a couple of things that you have to bring to the competition. First and foremost, your DECA ID, the lanyard that you were given on Wednesday with the lanyard. Not only that, but also your photo ID, preferably your school ID with your picture on it. And make sure you take a picture of this photo ID just in case and so that you'll still have it with you for your case. Other than the two IDs, make sure you also bring a 4-function calculator to your case and your MC. You never know when you get like a rogue finance case or some MC questions that actually need a calculator. So make sure you bring both your DECA ID, your photo ID, and a 4-function calculator.
All right, so for oral competitors, it's basically the same process as regionals. So just make sure that you do find your prep room before your call time, and don't forget that there is DECA time. So make sure you are early to your room. You never know when they're going to be going early or they're running late. So just make sure you know where it is and make sure that you're punctual. Make sure that you only use blue or black pen or pencil. I would say be safe, be on the safe side and use pen. Pencil is kind of informal in my opinion, so I would use pen over pencil. Make sure you do bring blank paper if you don't like using the Padfolio paper. A lot of people don't, but be careful because some series directors will say that you can't use any paper that you bring in, so you'll have to use the Padfolio paper. So just keep that in mind if you do bring paper. And just like all oral competitions, you have the standard prep time. So for team orals, you get the 30-minute prep. For individual, you get 10-minute prep, and then same presentation time. So 10 for individual orals and 15 for team orals. And this includes questions, as you guys know. What's different from regionals is that you guys actually won't be getting tables to prep on. So you guys will have to prep on your lap. So make sure that you know this and are comfortable with this. Maybe practice, maybe try writing a few things on your lap. That does get you used to it a bit, but it's not much of a change, but just so that you guys are aware that you have something like a hard surface like your Padfolio, or if you want to use a clipboard or a binder, make sure you do have that. And then when your prep time is over, this depends on the series director, but usually you'll have a corresponding letter on your rubric, and you'll have to go to the same judge with your corresponding letter. But obviously follow what the series director's instructions are. So if they tell you to do wherever they tell you to do that. And then lastly, don't forget that there are no pre-prep materials allowed. So make sure that everything is done on the spot. You don't have any business cards. You don't have any diagrams done. You don't have any lines on your paper. So make sure that it's blank paper.
Okay, so for writtens, the first thing you want to do is tonight, you want to make sure you have everything ready. So that's all your presentation materials, your backups, at least have 2 copies of every handout. People who need their reports printed, make sure you have them printed because those are a big part of your score. The first thing you want to do when you get to the Sheraton Center is make sure to go find out where you're going to be presenting. So look for a large banner that has your category name on it, and your location should be on your lanyards. Make sure that your technology works in that area, and then go back to wherever Bayview DECA is waiting, and then just do any last-minute rehearsals if you need to. Regarding presentation materials, if you're using technology, you want to make sure that everything works offline since there's not going to be any Wi-Fi there. So that means converting your Google Slides to PowerPoint. If you're using an app that needs to connect to the internet, make sure you have data in your pocket and bring chargers just to make sure that everything's charged before your presentation. So just a reminder that all prep and setup time is counted in your total presentation time. So you want to make sure that whatever you're bringing into your presentation is very easy to set up and easy to take out. Take in mind, this is 15 minutes, including questions. So allocate 2 to 3 minutes at the end for that question time. Lastly, you can't make multiple trips to the judges' table. So make sure when you're going in, you're bringing everything with you, and it's portable enough to shake the judge's hand with your own hand. So if that means putting stuff in your suit pockets, do so. And if you need to use a Padfolio to keep your other handouts in, do that. Just make sure it's clean, organized, and you have that free hand to be able to shake the judge's hand.
Yeah, okay. Also, we just got a question in the comment section asking to clarify whether you stay in the Eaton Center or in the Sheraton. You're allowed to go to the Eaton Center when you're not competing. Obviously, you can spend the day there, go shopping, but you have to stay inside the Eaton Center. Sorry, you have to stay inside the Eaton Center at all times, or else you will be DQ'd. So that's in the Eaton Center.
Yeah, so going back into competitions now, for those of you who have already written your MCs, congratulations on that. You do have that out of the way. But for those in the marketing and finance clusters, marketing you'll be writing from 8 to 9:15 on Saturday morning, and finance you'll be writing from 9:45 to 11. And so because those times are during some of the other awards ceremonies, make sure as soon as you finish, you do come and try to join us in the awards so we can cheer on everyone else. And just in terms of the exams themselves, make sure you remember to bring a a pencil, so preferably a number 2 pencil because it will be a Scantron. However, if you do prefer lead pencils, that's fine. Just make sure that you bring extra lead in case it breaks or anything goes wrong. And on top of that, you will need your DECA ID, so that's your time card that we handed out earlier, as well as photo ID, so preferably, as we mentioned earlier, your student ID. And on top of that, you'll need to bring a 4-function calculator, particularly for finance exams. You are allowed a scientific calculator in some cases. However, it's safer to go with the 4-function calculator in case your series director decides not to allow it. You don't want to have the risk of not having a calculator. And so for your exams, they are all in the Sheraton and they're on various levels. So make sure you check on your time cards for which level of the Sheraton you're writing on. And make sure you find the location the day before. So we are going down tomorrow and you're not writing till Saturday. And you will have time to look for that location so you don't end up scrambling before your exam. And so because you will be writing in fairly close quarters, you do want to make sure that it doesn't look like you're looking off other people's papers. And you also want to make sure that you're trying to cover your paper as much as possible so nobody else has the chance to look over it, because you don't want to risk a disqualification for that. And you will have the full 70 or 75 minutes depending on your cluster. So make sure you use it to the maximum effectiveness. You probably won't really need the whole time in order to do your answers. So make sure you have a little bit of time left over to check everything over.
Yeah, and just going into award ceremonies. So because Bayview has a lot of school pride, try to go to the award ceremony and cheer everyone on, even if they're, your competitors from other schools. There's also assigned seating. So if you're coming in later than everyone else, just look for Bayview. However, the first session is not assigned seating, so we're going to try to get there early so we can get front row seats to take pictures. Now, there will be times on your lanyards that indicate when your award ceremony is. So from 9 to 11, that's the blue lanyard, that's the first few categories. And then 1 to 4 is orange lanyard, and 4:30 to 6 is green lanyard. And then right after that, we're going to try to be as punctual as possible so we can all get back to Bayview on time. Also, when you go up,
didn't hear that first part. She said the first award ceremony, make sure, is non-assigned, so we're going to try and get there early so we can get the front row seats.
Yep, and we will be taking pictures. That's why we want front row seats, so smile when you win. And just a change from a few years ago, I think it's also a change from last year, but top 8 make ICDC now, and top 12 overall get medals, whereas top 18 get medals for principals. So this is a couple more medals than in previous years. And if you make ICDC, you'll be brought out and asked for verbal consent for your ICDC spot. Now, this is really important to talk over with your parents, because if you end up saying yes in the moment, but then you decide to cancel later on, then there will be a $100 cancellation fee, because then it just becomes an inconvenience for Olga, and also they just want money, I guess. And also remember to wear appropriate clothing or they won't let you on stage. This happened to me last year, and Jeffrey had to stand there awkwardly with 2 plaques. So make sure you're wearing full business attire still for awards, even though you're not going up in front of a judge. If you're in a team orals event, again, make sure, or a writtens event, make sure everyone's clear on who's going and who isn't. If you're doing team orals, you can't go without your partner. But if you're doing writtens, then you can go alone or with only, for example, 2 out of 3 team members. So ICDC is in Atlanta this year from April 20th to April 26th. So again, talk it over with your parents, and just keep in mind that ICDC can be pretty pricey. It's been anywhere from $1,400 to $3,000 in previous years. Atlanta is one of the cheaper ones, but it's still going to cost you around $2,000. And this is just a few finals orals tips from past provincials, and Rishi gave us some of these tips last year, and they still probably count for this year because so much of the judging system has stayed the same. So the case time just should be under 10 minutes. It doesn't really matter if it's anywhere from 6.5 to 9.5 minutes. They won't dock marks if you're just a little bit under. However, visuals are highly, highly recommended in every single case. The judges have been told to really look for flashcard and flowchart style presentations. And they really like it when you have a lot of materials that the judges can point to and look at and look over again when they're reviewing your notes. And also make sure you're always addressing the case itself and the problem that they're asking you to solve itself rather than the specific goal, rather than the specific PI, sorry, and make sure that all your PIs can be tied together into a cohesive solution. That's the difference between provincials and regionals. They also really like real life examples. There is an industry example stock in the training folder. We've moved it out of the individual orals file to the main screen so you can access it more easily. It has a lot of different examples that we've put together over the years in every single cluster except for finance. I'm sorry, because none of us really know too much about finance industry examples, but for marketing, hospitality, it's all there. And lastly, people really want to see you integrate technology and social media into your cases. So things like using Instagram, Snapchat, geofilters, vlogging, GoPro cameras are all things that we've been told are really advantageous or favorable to your cases. Okay,
right.
so
Oh.
Jeffrey, you wanted to? Mention a new document.
Yeah. So contrary to what it actually said on your time card, the time card only gives your time of the your presentation. So we're going to link a doc really shortly in the Facebook group, which basically has the DECA Provincials program. And this will actually tell you, the complete schedule of where everything is going to take place and at what time. So we'll just do that shortly.
Yeah, again, so if you didn't catch that on the time card, this year it doesn't actually have the exact room number that you'll be competing in, but we'll be posting a link shortly that will have the DECA Ontario program, which will list all the rooms that you'll be competing in. And as well, because we're arriving early tomorrow, definitely try to find your room very, very early, like an hour, half an hour early before your event. Make sure you know where it is, where you know everything is, to avoid any sort of last minute problems.
All right, so now on to some definite things to do for oral. So just a few things. Make sure you're enthusiastic. Obviously, we're all nervous. It's human nature to be nervous. All of us do get anxious when we are presenting. Remember that your judge has been listening for a long time, so try to make it interesting for them. They will get really bored and they may feel really frustrated and not crack a smile at all. But don't be intimidated by this, because even the judges that are really condescending and they may seem angry about your case. Sometimes they're not, and they really like your case. So don't really go off visual cues of your judge, and do the best regardless of what your judge's expression is, and make it interesting for them. Also, make sure you do bring extra writing utensils. So don't rely on that one pen that you bring and have it like stop on you while you're writing or prepping your case. So make sure you have extra pens. Make sure you do wear a watch if you do like doing that. So watch can help you keep track of time during your prep. But I'm sure most of you have done enough cases that you guys sort of know how long is 10 or 15 minutes, and you guys know when to stop and when you need to move on to questions. And one big thing, make sure that you make eye contact. Make sure that you're not talking too fast. Pace yourself. If you feel like you don't know what you're going to say next, just take that pause. It's better to take a pause and say for a long time and just make it awkward between you and the judge. And make sure that your intro and conclusion are really solid, right? Because don't forget that your intro is really the first impression that you're making, and then your conclusion is the last impression. So you really want to set the tone for what your judge remembers, really. So make sure that it is a really good impression, that you do try to make those personal anecdotes, make sure it's smooth, and make sure that you have a really good basis to start off from. And most importantly, have confidence. You guys have prepared for such a long time. We've all seen you practice, present, and we know you have these skills. So own this competition, do your best, and be confident in it. And really, to set that tone, make sure you give a firm handshake. Don't be weak. Don't be scared of the judge. They're not going to do anything to you. It's just a handshake. So make sure that it's firm and that you are confident. Make sure that you do know your timing during your case. We talked about it previously, so I'm sure you guys all know how your timing generally. And also, don't forget that anything can happen in your case. So for me in provincials, I was interrupted twice by my judge for the questions instead of waiting till the end. That can happen. Just adapt to it. So make sure you answer those questions and then move on. Don't feel nervous or don't break down because they may have done something or interrupted you. Just move on, make it flow somehow. And really, DECA can do anything to you. So just be careful of that and try to be creative with it if something does come up. Maybe you can transition really from that question back to your presentation and use that to your advantage instead of having that impede your case. And don't forget, most importantly, be clear, concise, organize your ideas, make sure that you really do know what direction you're going in. And this also comes back to being specific in wherever your recommendation, solution, or whatever you are presenting to the judge is, right? So make sure you do have a clear basis, clear plan, and that you're not just saying, oh, I'm gonna create a social media plan, or, oh, I'm just gonna put a billboard up. So I want, the judges are looking for something specific that they can actually like take and implement it immediately to their business. And most importantly, relate it back to your case. So don't forget that you are in a situation, you are maybe like the owner of a supermarket. Make sure that you talk that you are the owner of a supermarket and not say that, just generalize your statements too much. And lastly, make sure that you have fun. This is provincials, you guys, this is a great experience. Go to the Eden Center, enjoy doing your case, and just have fun overall.
Yeah, so a couple other orals don'ts for those of you competing tomorrow. Don't psych yourself out by doing too many practice cases before your call time. Just relax, take that time for yourself. If you have some time in between your cases, maybe take a break, go out to the Eaton Center, grab something to eat. Like Nick mentioned, you guys have done a lot of prep up until this time, and so cramming in extra cases isn't really going to help you that much anymore. You guys are already prepared, and the extra prep won't really do anything. Now, in the case that you do end up missing something in your case, or you end up stuttering a little bit, don't panic if you go off track. Just take the time and gather yourself. Another thing is when you start to go into the prep room, make sure you don't bring too much stuff. So for the majority of oral competitions, if not all of them, they will be in the basement of the Sheraton. And so make sure that you don't bring all of your stuff down there with you. Bayview will have its own little area, and you can leave your stuff there because you'll have nowhere to put it if you bring it into the case, and you'll have to leave it by the side of the desk when you present. And also try to avoid using filler words and stuttering. Talk slower or take pauses between your sentences instead, because it is better to take those pauses than to keep stammering through. And also don't get intimidated by other competitors. You guys are super well prepared, and there will be other people there who try to boast and be like, oh, I've done this many practice cases leading up to provincials, and really they're just trying to psych you out. So don't get too worried about them. You guys have done your part, and we know that you guys are all ready. In addition, it will be really loud in there because pretty much every category is presenting at the same time, and so you will be presenting at the same time as other people. So make sure you're able to focus on your own case, and you will be prepping in a noisy environment where people are presenting. So make sure you also stay focused on your own preparation there. And make sure you don't share information about your case with other competitors in general, but specifically in the same category, because as we mentioned earlier, Bayview is one of the first schools to compete. So you don't want to give other people that advantage later on. And finally, we know that we've taught you guys to use industry examples and use visuals, but don't feel obligated to use them if you don't think that they'll fit. So use them effectively, but don't overdo them, and don't just cram them in so that you have as many industry examples as possible.
Yep, and just going off of what Michelle said, even though we always encourage you to try new techniques, if you're trying something for the first time in your orals case at competition and you feel flustered, just feel free to go back to what you're used to, because don't try to psych yourself out by, being super innovative during the case. That counts the most.
Oh, hello. Okay, so I'm going to go through the written do's, some stuff that you guys should definitely take a look at and things you should do in competition. So the first thing is to check your event category guidelines before going into your presentation. So as said before, your report is going to be marked externally, which means that when going to the competition, your report is already going to be marked. So whatever your presentation, well, technically you should have already looked at your guidelines because that's what your presentation should entail. So make sure your presentation will address every single part of the rubric. Check tonight over that every single part of your presentation does satisfy the criteria in the rubric, because that's what the judge is going to be marking it off. Also, remember, not all of you are young aspiring entrepreneurs looking for investment. Make sure you check the role play requirements in your event and rubric guidelines, right? So in some scenarios, in different categories, you're going to be taking on different roles. While in OR and chapter teams, the way you talk to your judge and the way that the connection you make with them will be different. So make sure you're really aware of where you stand when it comes to the role and what kind of presentation you're trying to make to your judge. Make sure you review your admissible sizes, number, and the maximum size for each visual. Remember, you're only allowed 3 poster size 8 by 11 posters for your presentation materials. Remember, you're not going to be overloading your judge with materials. They don't want to walk out of there with a basket of stuff from your presentation. You want to give them a little bit of things that will spike kind of interest and remembrance from your presentations. Put your logo everywhere on your graphics. So just slap it on everything you have. You have a laptop, you have a phone case, anything you're going to be showing your presentation. You want to put your logo on there, your brochures, business cards. Make sure that's everywhere, because it will let your judge remember what your organization or presentation was about. Time your presentations. Remember that you want to give time to your judge. You don't know what kind of question your judge is going to be asking. They could ask you a very in-depth question that could take close to a minute to answer, which means that you should be at around 13 minutes finished with your presentation, going maximum at 13 minutes and 30 seconds, where you have at least a minute and a half for your judge to ask as many questions as they want. When responding to these questions, make sure you have it coordinated with your partner. You don't want to be looking over to your partner and asking them what questions we're supposed to ask. You should practice this and kind of break it down into different categories of questions you're going to be answering in your presentation. Color coordinate with your partner. It's really cute when you walk into a presentation with 2 or 3 people and you have matching ties, blazers, dresses, anything that will kind of give a little bit of team, some kind of team dynamic with a color. And also, don't go in with if you only have a black suit, a white dress shirt, and a black tie, that's okay. But if you're able to kind of color up the things you wear and your partners, it will really look nice for it. If you're a team, act like it. You know what? Don't be toxic to your partners. If someone screws up in their presentation, don't patronize them and be angry at them all day, because at the end of the day, you guys as a team should have practiced more, and it's not anyone's individual responsibility if you guys do not succeed, but you're all going to do great. Don't worry. Don't just stand there while your partners are talking. You want to acknowledge them and you want to smile. Again, you're going to be in front of a judge, not a wall. So usually when human interaction, you want to smile and acknowledge it when you want them to actually smile. When you want your judge to kind of notice something or something is really significant, make sure that you nod with your partners and acknowledge it so that your judge knows that this is really impactful. And remember that everything Orals is saying does apply to you as well. Don't be afraid to be spontaneous in your presentation when answering questions. Don't be afraid to try something new, but be smart about it, right? Don't do something you feel like will get you DC'd or will get you penalty points. Just be smart about it, but don't be afraid to try new things on the spot if you think it will help with your presentation. Also, this is really helpful with presentations, cracking a quick joke. But remember, when you walk into your presentation, if you have a 70-year-old grumpy old man, you're not going to try to crack your horrible jokes because it's not going to help with your presentation. So make sure you know who your judge is and the appropriate circumstances of what kind of jokes or what to actually say to them to lighten up the mood.
Yeah, so with that being said, you guys will want to delegate a certain time for your questions. So with that, you want to also prepare for potential questions that you might expect. So just make sure you have a general idea of what kind of questions you might be faced with so that you're not caught off guard when a judge asks you. And with that also being said about everything, make sure you know how and what order you guys are going to be walking in, especially for writtens. You guys will have lots of tangibles, you'll have your laptop, and you might actually be in you might be solo, a duo, or a trio. So you need to know exactly like who might be giving out the poster, who's putting down the laptop. And that's really important because the moment you walk in, that timer does start. So it's critical that you know the layout and how you want to begin your presentation right away. And also smile, be interested, and also be very confident. You guys worked really hard on this for months, and I know that you guys are prepared more than anything. So be excited, be enthusiastic, make sure your judge knows that you're really happy to be here, and also just remain really confident. And with confidence, make sure you guys relax. Don't stress too much about all about the little things. You guys, again, have prepared for this, so you know your content in and out, and you've practiced so many times. So don't stress a lot about when you get there, and remember to just stay really calm. That could be just by like taking deep breaths and just focus on your presentation, and don't let other things affect you too much, especially other competitors, if that makes you a bit nervous. Just know that you're there and you know your stuff and you're ready to present.
Okay, so there's also some don'ts you should have for written competitors, some stuff you should keep in mind. So obviously you don't really want to be cocky. You want to be confident, but not cocky, right? Because that just comes off as like rude and arrogant and really doesn't impress the judge. In terms of impressing the judge, you don't want to bribe or flirt with the judge. Even a light wink will probably not really help your case. You want to be calm, right? So oftentimes you get nervous during your presentation, so just relax. You guys have practiced. Don't speak too fast. Talk slowly and properly enunciate so that your judge doesn't get lost in your words. Do not use cue cards because it shows laziness, so be sure to memorize. I'm sure you guys have all put in that practice. You guys have all done very well up till now. So just keep doing that in your presentations. Don't get mad at your partners if they screw up during your presentation. You just want to be able to, have that team cohesion, understand the problem, and just move on, and try to work the best around it. You don't want to just stop your presentation and call out your partners, because that'll only make you guys look worse. Lastly, you don't want to blast the volume if you're playing a video. You want to keep it a little conservative so that you don't waste, obviously you're not disrupting other competitors and you're not like blowing the judges' ears out, and you want to have it pre-adjusted so that during your presentation you're not wasting time. And again, don't stress because you guys have put in a lot of work, and I'm sure you'll all do fine.
All right, so just some final reminders with the checklist. Again, make sure you arrive tomorrow and both days at 6:35 a.m. That's crucial because we want to load the bus before 6:45. Remember to bring full business attire for writtens, all your materials, copies of anything, everything backed up on USBs, your lanyard and time card, especially a photo ID. Make sure you take a picture of that as well. Your Padfolio, some blank paper if you want to do some practice. 4-function calculator for those of you writing the MC. Again, scientific calculator will be taken away from you. It has to be a 4-function calculator. So if you don't have one, try to message someone, try to get one. Some pens, pencils, lunch money as well if you want to go out to the eating center and get some grub. Again, as well, the moment you get there, try to find out where your event is so you'll know exactly where it is for when your time is. Bring study materials, of course, cases, MCs. Also brings a schoolwork as well because there's going to be quite a lot of downtime. And lastly, again, make sure you've talked to your parents about confirmation of whether you can or cannot go to ICDC, because they will be asking you for verbal consent. And if you do say yes and then you back out, there's going to be a fee of $100 you'll have to pay. All right, so that basically wraps up our Hangouts. To conclude, just want to say that we're all so proud of all the hard work you guys have put in. You guys have been there every single Tuesday working on cases, working on presentations. We've seen you all grow so much. So no matter what happens tomorrow, be proud of all the work you've put in. Be confident, and remember, you're from Bayview DECA, so you're ready for this, and we know you're going to kill it tomorrow. So good luck, everyone. Get a good night's sleep. Sleep early, and make sure you're there tomorrow, 6:35 a.m. sharp.